Saving America one entrepreneur at a time, it's the Biz Rap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs, it's Biz Rap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan. And welcome to another edition of Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and thank you so much for joining me today. We are the show, of course, all about small business and entrepreneurs. We are here to help you, the small business people of America, the entrepreneurs of America, to run your businesses more effectively, have more fun running your business, make more money, make some profits. Yeah, I know it's a dirty word. Everybody thinks that those big corporations making tons of profits, but you have an obligation as an entrepreneur and a small business person to make money and to make profits. And the first thing you should do with those profits is take care of you and your family, and then take care of your employees and your friends and people in your community and your neighborhoods. That's what making money is all about. It's taking care of other people. But you got two choices. Do you make some money in your own business, take care of friends, family, and people in your community, or you make money in your own business, write a check to Uncle Sam and hope that Uncle Sam takes care of your friends, family, and the community? Well, they haven't done a very good job of it so far, so I don't have a lot of hope that they're going to in the future. That's what we need to do as small business people and entrepreneurs: make money, take care of the people in our communities. It's funny, but we've got this attack going on small businesses. Big businesses are trying to put you out of business. The banks. I mean, when was the last time you actually heard of a small company getting a reasonable bank loan from one of the major banks? They don't do that anymore. I mean, if you're going to get a bank loan today, they want security. They want years of positive cash flow. They're not taking any risk, and then they turn around and say, well, why don't you use your credit card to finance your business? And they charge you 25% interest on your credit card. Meanwhile, you've got the IRS and every other government organization trying to put you out of business and trying to fine you for this, that, and the other thing. So there's a real attack going on in this country against small business. And it's a shame, because small business, we are the drivers of the American economy. Did you know, as we pulled out of the recession, that most new jobs are created by small businesses? Did you know that most people in America work for small businesses? And just look through your community. You see small businesses on every corner, and don't be fooled when you see those McDonald's arches. In many cases, that's a small business, because it's somebody who purchased a McDonald's franchise, and that person who runs and owns that McDonald's restaurant probably lives in your neighborhood. So we need to fight for small business. And that's what this show is all about. We have on the show guests who can help you run your business more effectively, help you make more money. We have guests on who can help you raise money for your business, and we have entrepreneurs on the show who tell their stories and tell the successes, and not only the successes, but the challenges they have had in building their businesses. Let's get on to what we do here at Biz Rap Radio. We talk to intriguing and interesting people who can help small business people do a better job of running their businesses, and I'm so thrilled to have just an amazing lady on the line today. She is an author. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's owned 7 businesses. Just an amazing person. And so I'm so glad to have on the line with me today Ruth King. Ruth, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your listeners.
Now, you call yourself the profitability master and the CEO of the Profitability Revolution Paradigm. That's quite a mouthful. Tell me more. What does that mean?
Well, I am all about profitability, and in the introduction you said that profit's a dirty word. In many large corporations, I would agree, but profit is the only way that we survive. Because if we don't make profit, we can't pay our payroll, we can't pay the roof over our heads, we can't pay our rent or anything like that, because unprofitable businesses don't survive. So I wanted to find a name for me because I work with the financial side of small business. That is my passion in terms of helping small business owners get and stay profitable. So, financial consultant didn't work. Financial analyst made everybody think of stocks and bonds. So we came up with the word profitability. And so I really do help small businesses become more profitable. Profitability Revolution Paradigm is the first internet TV network that broadcasts news and ideas and tactics and strategies for small business owners that matter to them 24/7, 365 on any internet device, whether it's mobile or desktop. And we also have the largest video library we can find in the world, with over 300 videos on HR, sales, marketing, whatever. So when you wake up at 3 in the morning, we probably have your answer.
Wow. So where does somebody go to find this interesting stuff?
Just go to www.profitabilityrevolution.com, and you can watch the shows free of charge. And quite frankly, click off, finish our interview first. Don't drop off the interview listening to all of us today. And then after we're done, if you want to see what we're doing, go to the site, and you can watch the programs free of charge. If you want access to the library, it's either $19.95 a month or $200 a year. So it's not outrageous to actually get what you need in terms of becoming more profitable, but not only from a financial perspective, an HR perspective. Your people have to be productive. Your selling techniques have to be productive. You got to find out whether your customers are profitable for you or not. There's so much more than just the financial side of profitability.
Oh, this is really great stuff, and I love the fact that you've got free things, and I encourage the listeners. There's so much free stuff out there. No, you do not have to go back to MBA school and pay $100,000 to get your MBA. Really, the information that you're going to learn at MBA school on how to run a business, most of it you can get right off the internet. So much of it is free. And the one thing I like about the people that I interview on this show, every one of them, almost without exception, has something they're willing to share with my listeners for free. It could be a white paper, it could be a video, it could be an ebook. In your case, it's 300 videos. I mean, what could you learn about running a business by watching 300 videos? So, if you're listening right now, I really urge you to check this out. Go to the website. Give us the website again, Ruth.
www.profitabilityrevolution.com.
It's a shame that we have to use the word revolution when we talk about profitability, because you would think there shouldn't be a revolution required. It should be, hey, that's what we're in business for. That's what businesses do. You make a profit. But hey, look, I see a lot of businesses. I'm a business consultant. I get hired all the time, and one of the challenges a lot of businesses have is, how do you make money? And is there a secret to making money, Ruth? How do you address that when you go and talk to people and they're just not making money in their business?
Well, the first thing that they have to understand is what their financial statements are telling them. More often than not, people will not check us out until what I call they get in pain. An employee leaves who's a key employee, a vendor calls and says, I need payment, and they don't have any cash. Can't make payroll, different things. And so most business owners don't pay attention to the financial side of their business until they get in trouble. And then, as you said, they don't make money. And as a result of that, that's really where you have to start. You have to start with what I call net profit per hour. And what that means is, for every hour that you do and that you use producing your products and services, how much profit are you actually earning? So you take last year's net profit, the whole year, and divide by the total number of billable hours, in your case as a consultant, or the total number of hours that it took to produce the widgets or whatever else it is, and come up with a number. And if you're like most small businesses, that number is less than you can earn at McDonald's.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Ruth, this is wonderful stuff, and it's so exciting. We need to focus on profitability, talk about profitability, and we're going to have to do a lot more of that. But in the next segment, because we've got to go to commercial break, this is your host, Mike Manahan. It is Biz Rap Radio, the show all about small business and entrepreneurs, and we'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. And in case you just tuned in to the show, we are talking to Ruth King, the Profitability Master, CEO, Profitability Revolution Paradigm. We've been talking about profitability and how businesses need to think about not only their total profits over the year, but actually how much profit they're making every single hour. And Ruth, thanks so much for sticking with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we talked about this profitability per hour. So and you mentioned that a lot of times companies do this and they find out that actually their profits they're making are less than you could make working at McDonald's flipping burgers.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, I have a client who the first year we did this, he had a $50,000 net profit last year, and he thought that was pretty good until he divided in how many hours it took to generate that $50,000, and that was it came out to be $3 an hour. I mean, and I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, "That's not very good, is it?" I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "No." And then I had And I had another one who's, an IT consultant who absolutely, loved working on problems until 3, 4 in the morning. And he charges customers, for 2 hours. And he came out with 94 cents an hour.
Oh, my gosh. That is absolutely unbelievable. Well, so what does a small business person do when they found they've kind of trapped themselves into this lack of profitability kind of experience?
The first thing is that they open their eyes and find out where they are. If they don't like where they are, if they don't like their net profit per hour, obviously 94 cents an hour is not going to cut it for this guy. And you make the changes to start building up your profitability. He started really looking at how many billable hours he had. I had another one who went through his warehouse and he had a production line. And he found all this stuff all over the floor, and he gathered everybody up, and he said, "Who wants to make another $20?" And everybody's raising their hands, and he says, "Okay, here's this piece and this piece and this piece that were just all over the floor." So I think once your eyes get opened, you'll find in your company where you can be more profitable. And sometimes it is not even having to raise prices. It's getting, if a job's supposed to be done in, let's say, 8 hours and it's taking 16, and you're built a project based on 8 hours, I mean, you're half as profitable as you really should be. How do you get that done in 8 hours? If you're making 10 widgets an hour and you've priced your products at making 20 widgets an hour, you have an issue there. So you really and truly start looking for everything. And then I'd ask all of your employees, how would you save $100 a month in overhead? They know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They absolutely know.
What is it about small business people? They're often very hesitant to get their employees involved. I've been doing a little bit of consulting with it's not a huge company. They're doing around $5 million in revenue. They got maybe 12 employees. It's kind of in a specialty niche, and the owner of the business asked me to come in and have a look at things and give her some thoughts and ideas. And one of the things I noticed is she shared no information about anything with the people that worked for her. And in fact, she was all upset one day because I had left what she considered was something very confidential lying on the desk. It was like a profitability statement on one of the jobs they were working on. I said, well, wouldn't you want your employees to know how much money you're making on a job? Because if they're going to take responsibility for maximizing profitability on the jobs you're doing for your customers, they need to know how much they're making. If you hide that information from them, how can they even measure whether they're being successful or not?
Yeah, and they think you're made of money at that point, too.
Well,
they don't have a clue what things cost.
Yeah, that's exactly the other thing. And when you hide too much from employees, very often they don't see the big picture. They really think you are squirreling away tons and tons of dollars while they're scraping away getting nothing. And, of course, the reality is, look, I've probably looked at the financial statements of 10,000 businesses over the past 30 years as a consultant, as an employee, as an educator, as an author, and I've yet to find that business that's doing $10 million in revenue and making $9,999,000 in profit. They just don't exist.
Yeah, well, if you find that, you let me know and we'll replicate it. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny, one of my favorite ways to actually get employees involved in this is actually to do a profit sharing plan. And this is a very simple profit sharing plan. And what it does is it says, okay, we're going to reward you for not only your salary, but also your years of experience. So let's say you have 5 employees, and one employee has, makes $20,000 a year and has been with you for 5 years. So his number is 20,000 times 5 or 10,000. And you have another one who's been with you a year and makes, $30,000, and so that's $100,000, and then 30,000 would be his. And so we add everybody's time up times their salary, and that's your denominator. Your numerator is that person's salary times the amount of time he's been there. And you take 10% of profits, 20% of profits, whatever you want to take, and that's how they get paid at the end of the year as a bonus, assuming the company's profitable, obviously. And it's amazing what happens when you start sharing profits. Number one, they want to know whether a job is profitable. They want to know whether the company is profitable. And after you do it a couple of years, what happens is you don't even have to fire the non-productive people. The employees don't put up with it because they're affecting their profit sharing. It's cool.
That is such great advice, and something else I've got complaints about from employees in companies I've worked with. They rather than profit sharing, what they do at the end of the year is they give out bonuses, and the big wigs sit over in the corner office with the door closed and kind of arbitrarily decide who gets what. And so one employee ends up getting a $10,000 bonus, and the next employee ends up getting $6,000 bonus, and you can be darn sure those employees run over to the local bar, and the first thing they're doing is discussing how much bonus each one of them got. Now at the end of the year, you've got, half a dozen pissed off employees because you basically gave the bonuses to your favorite people and not necessarily the people who actually performed on the job.
And this process totally eliminates that. There is no favoritism. There's no somebody gets more than the other. It's totally dependent upon the amount of years you've been there times their salary. That's it.
Now, do you have that formula somewhere on your website? Because we went over it very quickly, but is there something on your website where somebody could access that and kind of come up with a good formula for a profit-sharing plan for their employees?
Actually, it's not on my website. Now that you asked the question, but if they send me an email, I'd be happy to send it to them and explain it to them and just send them the formula for do it. It's actually in one of my manuals. That I have an operations manual, and I've actually put it in there, but it's not on the website. Okay,
so Ruth, give out your contact information again so that people know how to get a hold of you if they're interested.
Okay, it's very easy. It's rking, R-K-I-N-G, at profitabilityrevolution.com.
Okay, so rking at profitabilityrevolution.com. Of course, the website, profitabilityrevolution.com, where you were saying earlier you have 300 videos that people can go and watch, and it's free.
No, the videos aren't free. The actual 24-hour, the actual broadcasts are free.
Oh, the broadcasts are free. Okay.
The whole broadcast. I mean, if they want to watch right now, they could. We don't want them watching right now, but they can watch whenever they want, and they just log on there and they say "Watch Now" free button, and you can watch programs all night long if you'd like. Oh. If they want access to the how-to library, that's either $20 a month or $200 a year.
Okay, so they can get a bunch of free content, and then they can also get some content that they pay for, but for basically the cost of a Manhattan martini will get you because I live in Long Beach, California. We can still get a martini for $6 or $7, but I know can
you really?
You can't do that in Manhattan anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So there you go. For a relatively small fee, you can have access to a huge library of information that can help you do a better job of running your business. We got maybe 1 minute left before we have to go to commercial break. Can you give us some other quick thoughts before we jump off here for commercials?
Yes. Once you know your net profit per hour, the next thing you want to know is your overhead cost per hour. How much did you spend in overhead last year divided by the total number of hours? The billable hours the same as net profit per hour. And that is what you have to add as cost to every single project, to every single widget that you sell, because everything that you do that generates revenue has to pay for overhead. So that's there's two pieces to the puzzle there.
Now, I know a lot of entrepreneurs when I talk to them, and I start to talk because I teach finance and accounting at Cal State University, in addition to being a business consultant and a radio host. And people, I start to talk to them about numbers, and their eyes kind of get really big like owls, and it's like, I don't know anything about accounting. I don't really understand this stuff. My bookkeeper does everything, and I can't get any decent answers out of her. She doesn't seem to understand what she's doing. And does a small business person or an entrepreneur, do they need to become accountants in order to figure out what's going on in their businesses?
No, they really and truly don't, but I know we have to take a break, so after the break I'll tell you how easy it is to learn the financial side of business. How's that?
Okay, that sounds absolutely fabulous. And yes, it's BizRap Radio. Michael Manahan. I'm on with Ruth King, and we are talking profitability and strategies for profitability for your business. But we're going to go to commercial break right now, and we will be back right after these messages. And welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Again, thanks for listening today. We're engaged in an absolutely enthralling conversation with Ruth King. She is the profitability expert. And Ruth, you were talking before how a small business person doesn't have to become like a professional accountant in order to understand the finances of their business. Do you have some shortcut strategies as to how somebody can really understand what's going on?
Sure. The first thing to realize is that you never abdicate the financial responsibility of your business. You can delegate the day-to-day bookkeeping and those types of things, but you are responsible for the numbers overall. You are responsible because it's your name on the door. It is the bank line. If you've got a line of credit, banks these days aren't doing too much of that. But anyway, all the loans are all in your name, so you can never abdicate that responsibility. I have so many business owners who tell me that they trust their bookkeepers with their life. And the thing is that the good embezzler becomes the trusted bookkeeper. And once you remember that, you know that you can never, ever tell your bookkeeper, you can't trust them implicitly type things. But think about it this way. When I was a kid, I don't know, Mike, when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, and I had to learn to read, and I'm 3, 4, 5 years old, whatever it was, and my mother's going, you're going to learn to read this. And if I didn't learn to read it, I went to bed with that supper, I didn't go out to play, back in the day when we had no television, really, for all intents and purposes. And and it was a punishment not to learn to read. And so we finally did it. And, then this whole new world opens up to you that, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed, and you learn to read, and then you get to learn about all these other things. And, understanding the financial side of business is exactly the same thing. It is, it's something that you learn a little bit of language, and that's it. You don't have to do it. But once you do it, it becomes this whole new world to you. And the only thing that stops a lot of people is that their mother isn't beating them over the head saying, you got to do this. The only thing that happens is when you get in trouble, is the first time you start paying attention. And then the first time it's hard. The second time it's a little easier. I wrote a book called The Courage to Be Profitable, and it's written in English rather than accounting babble. So that, if you really want to know what a P&L is and you want to know what a balance sheet is and what they both mean, it's in English. It's, written for somebody who just doesn't know the financial side of business well. And, what you do, how to learn it, what it means, how to analyze your financial statements, and delegate the day-to-day bookkeeping. I do the same thing. Do I know how to do books? Absolutely. Do I do it? No, but I know enough to be able to question. If something doesn't look right, it's like, where did this come from? And then they have to come back. And, once you start asking questions to your bookkeeper, then they're going to start paying more attention to you and come to you and say, well, this is going on. And in less than 2 minutes, you can tell whether your financial statements are accurate. And Mike, I know you know this, but let's do it real quick. Number one, balance sheet. If your balance sheet has negative cash in it, your balance sheet is wrong. There is no banker in the world who's going to let you have negative cash in your checking account. They will close your account and charge you a lot of fee money. Number two, if your payroll taxes are negative, your balance sheet is wrong, because the IRS doesn't owe you money. You owe the IRS money as a general rule.
And if the IRS does owe you money, good luck getting it.
Yeah, exactly. Number three, if your loans payable are negative. That's wrong because the bank doesn't owe you money, you owe the bank money. All of these things really mean your bookkeeper doesn't know what he or she is doing, and or else they're very lazy at what they do. So those are three things. Then also make sure that your balance sheet balances, i.e. assets equal liabilities plus net worth. So that has to balance. And then when you look at your profit and loss statement, then you want to look and make sure that you have rent every month, because unless you're working out of your house or something along those lines, most businesses have rent to pay. They have a utility bill to pay. They have a phone bill to pay every month. And if you see none of that in a particular month, somebody didn't do their job right, because you have those expenses every single month. If you notice expenses that are exceedingly high, you're just running down the numbers on your P&L, and you can tell whether it looks right or not. You know what you spend money on. And that's a very quick way and a very easy way to make sure that you're, a quick check to see whether your financial statements are right. And if any of those things are happening, then they're wrong, and you throw them back in their face and say, okay, fix this.
Well, I've talked with a lot of small businesses, and the bookkeepers do the books in terms of paying the bills or making the bank deposits or running the payroll. But a lot of them simply really do not go to that step of taking what they've entered into the accounting system and actually producing an income statement and a balance sheet and showing them to the owner. And I've asked owners, I said, well, the bookkeeper's in there doing the books every day. What do you get from the bookkeeper? Well, I don't really get anything. So if you're a small business person out there or an entrepreneur, and you have somebody doing your books, whether they work for you or whether they're a contract, an outside firm, a small accounting firm, you need to be asking to see the financial reports every single month. You need to be saying, I want a balance sheet and an income statement every single month, just to make sure that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing accurately. Yeah, well, that is very good advice.
Yeah, and if you're using QuickBooks or Sage, which used to be Peachtree, or some other program, generally, it's really easy to print out that report. You go to Reports, Financial, P&L, Balance Sheet, print it out. It's not hard.
Now, there's something that you mentioned previously, and that is kind of being money taken from you by somebody you trust. And there was, and I can't remember the specifics, but there was a very successful lawyer here in Los Angeles who made literally tens and tens of, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, from his law practice. And at the age of something like 70, found out he was dead broke. His trusted bookkeeper and her sidekick had basically embezzled every dollar from his bank account. So how do you protect yourself against that?
First thing you do is you send your bank statements home. You never, because what happens when you get your bank statements sent home, now we get the little microfiche, look at them. Make sure that you've signed all the checks, make sure the checks look accurate based on your recollection. I had a client who had a vendor change a check from $45 to $545, so it's not necessarily internal. It could be external, too, somebody you sent a check to. And so that is absolutely the first thing. Then you can bring it in and have the bookkeeper balance the checks. The second thing is you never, ever, ever let a bookkeeper have check signing authority. If the bookkeeper has check signing authority and you've given that bookkeeper carte blanche to write any check she wants or he wants. And he can write a check to himself. He can write a check to his own company. Never let any vendor additions be done by anybody but you, because they could end, if you have a legitimate vendor that's ABC Corp, for example, they could add ABC Company, and you're signing checks really quickly and you think it's the same thing. Well, lo and behold, they're embezzling thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And so these are some of the very quick things that you can do to make sure that you help keep the honest people honest. It's, and unfortunately, I see this, and I'm sure, Mike, you see it all the time. Small business owners get taken advantage of all the time, and embezzlement, although it's not talked about, is very rampant in small businesses because owners don't pay attention. Yeah,
it's huge. I hear stories all the time. I actually did some consulting work for a small company that the bookkeeper there took off with $200,000. It's just it's incredible. But they've become very sophisticated bookkeepers on how they can. It's funny, sometimes they seem pretty stupid when it comes to doing the work they're supposed to do, but they can sure figure out how to steal your money.
Yeah. And one other thing, always have, if you're paying payroll, which most of us do, is you have a separate payroll account from your operating account. Because I've had employees scan in signatures off of their payroll checks and steal a check and embezzle that way to the tune of $96,000.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you really have to be very cautious and careful looking out for employee theft. Well, this is great stuff. Ruth, we are coming up to the end. We got maybe a little over a minute here left. But once again, how can people get a hold of you?
All right. If you want the way to do a profit sharing plan, that's easy. Just send me an email. It's rking, RKING, at profitabilityrevolution.com. If you want a copy of the Courage to Be Profitable.com, it is my book, so you can do the Courage to Be Profitable.com. And then check out Profitability Revolution, because you can watch the programs free. You can sit there. You've got 10 minutes. We have an app. If you're waiting at Starbucks for a meeting to start, somebody who got stuck in traffic, like I'm sure they do in LA, they do here in Atlanta, and just log on to it and watch something for 10 minutes. It might help you with that particular meeting, or do something really great and a great idea for your business. So those are different ways that you can, that we help small business owners all the time, and ways that you can get a hold of me.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So you got to be checking it out, profitabilityrevolution.com. And I don't know if we mentioned, but Ruth is the author of a number of books: The Ugly Truth About Small Business, The Ugly Truth About Managing People, The Courage to Be Profitable. So check out her books. Focus on learning and educating yourself, because that's what you need to do to run a business successfully. Well, Ruth, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. I hope I helped your listeners.
You really did. And it's Mike Manahan, your host, Biz Rap Radio. And we are going to be back to finish up the show right after these commercial messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. That was Ruth King, Profitability Master and CEO of the Profitability Revolution Paradigm. Wow, that's a mouthful. Very interesting discussion on profits and profitability, and how we as business people really need to be looking at the bottom line and making sure we are making a profit. You need to make a profit in order to have a sustainable business. It is as simple as that. Speaking of profitability, there's a squeeze on profitability on a lot of small businesses, and it's coming from government regulation, and one government regulation in particular. That's the government regulation over minimum wage. Yes, I mean, if you don't know this issue, I mean, you must be living in a cave or something, because cities, counties, municipalities, states, they're all even the federal government, all working to increase wages by passing laws that require you, the small business person, the entrepreneur, to pay more money to your employees. And you listen to some of the arguments, they call it the living wage. Well, you've got to pay people, a living wage. I'm not sure how you determine what a living wage is. I tell you, I know an attorney up in Beverly Hills makes about $400,000 a year, can't pay his bills. So maybe he needs a raise so he can have a living wage. But at the end of the day, there is economic consequences to increasing wages. And I'm reading an interesting article from Forbes. We are seeing the effects of the minimum wage rise in San Francisco. Now, as you may know, San Francisco put through a regulation increasing minimum wages. And one of the areas where this is showing up is in the fast food industry. You've probably all heard of the fast food company called Chipotle. And, they're kind of fast Mexican food, pretty good food, although I don't frequent Chipotle. In fact, I don't frequent most fast food restaurants. But a lot of people do, obviously, or they wouldn't be in business. Now, interestingly enough, Chipotle has announced that prices are going up in San Francisco. They're going up about 10%. They're going up far more rapidly than they are in other cities where Chipotle has restaurants. And why would you think that in San Francisco the prices are going up more than, say, I don't know, in Oklahoma City? Would it have anything to do with the fact that in San Francisco they've had to significantly increase the wages of their workers? Business economics is not that difficult a thing to understand. Typically, let's take a look at a fast food restaurant, and what do you have the way of expenses? You've got labor, you have your food ingredients, all of the food that you have to buy in order to make the products that you sell, and then you have your overhead, your things like your rent and your electricity and your heating bill and perhaps some advertising, marketing expenses. But that's really the bundle. Now, is my understanding, if you look at the fast food industry, about 30% of the expenses of a fast food restaurant goes to wages. About 30% goes to ingredients, and about 40% goes to everything else: rent, advertising, capital costs, and of course profits are in there. However, the fast food restaurants are not the most profitable businesses in the world. Some guy who's running a local Wendy's, or a franchisee for Wendy's or a franchisee for McDonald's, he's got one location. I mean, that guy's not making $3 or $4 million a year. Maybe he's making a reasonable wage, but he's got everything at risk as well. Well, if your wages, if 30% of your costs are in labor, and all of a sudden you have to increase those costs because you now have to comply with a minimum wage law, chances are if 30% of your costs have to go up, they're probably going up enough to eliminate most of your profit, or possibly even wipe out your profit and put you into a loss. So what are your choices if your individual wage rate per hour goes up? You don't have many choices as a business person. Economics drive all of this. You either have to try and make your employees more productive, which means bringing in systems and processes that will allow them to make their food more quickly. That's number one. Or number two is you increase your prices to cover the fact that you have had to pay more money to your employees. And the third one is just to, I guess you'd accept not making any money in your business or losing money, but then what's the point of being in business? After all, as we just heard from Ruth King, your objective in business is to be profitable. So let's say the scenario is, okay, we're just going to increase prices as Chipotle has done. Well, that's fine. You've increased prices. That's now covering your added cost of labor. But what are the consequences of increasing prices? Well, first of all, some of your customers may come in and say the prices have gone up. Guess what? We're going to choose not to eat here. We may choose to eat elsewhere, whether that's at another fast food restaurant or whether it's going to the grocery store, buying some ingredients, and making their own lunch. So that's option number one. Some customers choose not to eat at that restaurant. The other option is people continue to choose to eat at that restaurant. But who in this country are the people who most frequent fast food restaurants? Do you think it's the attorneys on Wall Street? Or the bankers on Wall Street? Do you think it's the attorneys up in Beverly Hills? Do you think it's the rap artists? Do you think it's the manager making $200,000 a year? No, from my experience, and I think statistics prove this out, the people who frequent fast food restaurants, particularly the lower-priced ones, are in many cases the people who are making the least amount of money. So now you've taken somebody who is making a lesser wage, and you've increased their cost of eating. So now their expenses have gone up, So even if they earned more money, even if their wages went up to $15 an hour, say in San Francisco, now their costs of eating out have gone up. So unless you don't want them to eat out, which is going to hurt the restaurants that need that money in order to pay the wages of the people that have to get $15 an hour. So as you can see, this is a vicious cycle. It goes around and around. You pay more to your employees. The prices go up. Now your employees have to pay more to get the food they're getting, and they're no better off than when they were making the money they were making. But who is better off? Now, that is the clue. Who is better off when the minimum wage goes up? Well, of course, the government's better off. Why? Because the government gets tax off of the wages, and the more you earn, the more taxes it collects. On top of that, the employer pays something called payroll taxes, right? And those are based on payroll. So there's a whole bunch of fees and taxes that the government collects based upon the amount of money you pay your employees. At the end of the day, the employees are no better off, but the government's collecting more money from the system, and they're rubbing their hands with glee at this strategy of how they can increase and line their coffers. But really, they're doing nothing for the businesses. They're doing nothing for the employees. And quite frankly, they're probably making matters worse. By the way, if you go to bizrapradio.com, we have an article up there all about minimum wage and why minimum wages are a bad idea. I think we list 10 different reasons why minimum wages are a bad idea. First of all, they don't do anything for the economy, but there's a whole issue of freedom and liberty and the free market for labor that revolves around the whole minimum wage subject. So go to BizRap Radio and check that out. You will be, I think, amazed at some of the implications there are in the government meddling and monkeying with the free market for wages and labor. Simple as that. Anyways, that's my take on it. Mike Manahan, BizRap Radio. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. You know, we at BizRap Radio, we believe we can fix the United States of America through a fundamental concept that individuals pursuing their own economic interests in free markets will create more prosperity for more people than can ever be achieved through government regulations and a planned economy. It's as simple as that. Freedom works, my friends. So go out there, start your small business, or if you own a business right now, keep it up, keep making money, keep making profits. Thank you so much for listening. This is your host, Michael Manahan. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Biz Rap Radio.